beautiful people. Today we will take a look at your urine pH, at the pH of your urine. I suppose you didn't forget the concepts uh, behind your urine pH, your pH. Please note if the pH of a solution is less than 7, then it is acidic. If the pH of a solution is greater than 7.0, then it is alkaline or basic. And I suppose you still remember that hydrogen ions in a solution will affect the pH of the solution. Okay, so yes, let's take a look at your urine pH. First, let's take a look at the two major organs that are responsible in the acid-base balance of the body. Okay, or the two organs, the two major organs that are responsible in maintaining the acid-base balance in the body. First, of course, here is you have your lungs, which is responsible in excreting volatile acids. It is responsible in excreting volatile acids. Okay, it excretes carbon dioxide. Okay, it excretes majority, it excretes carbon dioxide through, of course, the process of breathing. And, or, yes, and your kidneys here, okay, your kidneys, it is responsible in the retention and in retaining and generating bicarbonate ions. Okay, it is responsible in retaining and generating bicarbonate ions. But then please note that your kidneys, it can also excrete the hydrogen ions. Later on, we will take a look at how does your kidneys secrete or excrete hydrogen ions through the urine. Okay, your kidneys, again, the proximal convoluted tubule or the proximal tubule, it is responsible for the bulk of bicarbonate reabsorption or retention, or as well as a generation of bicarbonate. And of course, the distal convoluted tubule provides the remaining function. Okay, please note that your kidneys, it is responsible in the release of non-volatile acids. If the lungs, it is for volatile acids, your kidneys, it is responsible for the release of non-volatile acids. So what are these non-volatile acids? You have your sulfuric acid, phosphoric acid, and hydrochloric acid. Also pyruvic acid, some amounts of pyruvic acid, lactic acid, citric acid, as well as ketone bodies are excreted by the kidneys. Okay, and so of course, they are excreted in the form of salts. They are excreted to the glomerulus in the form of salts. Okay, in the form of salts. Okay, so please, yes, save this one for later. Okay, your tubular cells, they are capable of secreting hydrogen ions going to the ultrafiltrate. They secrete hydrogen ions going to the ultrafiltrate in exchange for sodium. So what happens here? Sodium will move in to the renal tubular epithelial cells. Okay, sodium will move in from the ultrafiltrate going to the renal tubular epithelial cells. And yes, your hydrogen coming from the renal tubular epithelial cells, it will move out going to the ultrafiltrate. It will move out going to the ultrafiltrate. Okay? And yes, okay, going back to these non-volatile acids, your non-volatile acids, they accordingly function to trap hydrogen ions for the elimination in the urine. Okay, so they trap or they combine these salts. Okay, these salts they combine with hydrogen ions. Okay, for the elimination of hydrogen. Okay, and so that is actually just one mechanism on how your hydrogen ions are excreted out of the body, or excess hydrogen ions are excreted out of the body. Okay? This one actually is a mechanism on how your kidneys release hydrogen ions. Okay, so in this case, your hydrogen ions, okay, your hydrogen ions will move out from the renal tubular epithelial cells. This is your RTE. Okay, it will move out going to the ultrafiltrate. And what will happen? Sodium will move in to allow, yes, for the release of hydrogen ions. So, okay. So what will happen here? Okay, what will happen to your hydrogen ions? Okay, your hydrogen ions, please note that, okay, there are filtered bicarbonate also present. There are filtered bicarbonate also. Okay, bicarbonate, they are filtered also in the glomerulus. So, bicarbonate is present in the tubular lumen. So, what happens here? Okay, by the way, imagine that the stimulus for this occurrence is an increase in the acidity of the system. Okay, please note that, okay, imagine na lang po that the stimulus in this occurrence is an increase in acidity, or there is a decrease in the pH of the system. There is acidosis that is taking place somewhat. So, okay, what will happen? You need to release hydrogen ions. So what will happen here? Okay, hydrogen ions will combine with the filtered bicarbonate. Hydrogen ions will combine with filtered bicarbonate, forming carbonic acid. Okay, forming carbonic acid. Okay, and so of course this one is catalyzed by carbonic anhydrase. So what will happen? In a very short span, okay, in a very short span, your carbonic acid here will dissociate forming your carbonic acid will dissociate forming water and carbon dioxide. And yes, both of this one, they are reabsorbed by the renal tubular cells. They are reabsorbed by the renal tubular cells. And then inside the RTE, inside the renal tubular cells, what will happen? Carbon dioxide and hydrogen, or sorry, carbon dioxide and water will combine, forming carbonic acid again. Carbon dioxide and water will combine, forming carbonic acid. Okay? So the carbon dioxide will either come from the interstitial fluid or it will come from the circulation. Okay? So it will combine with water and carbon dioxide, forming carbonic acid. After a very short span, this carbonic acid will dissociate, forming hydrogen ions. Okay? This carbonic acid will dissociate, forming hydrogen ions and bicarbonate. What will happen here? Your carbonic acid will still move out, okay, and will combine with the bicarbonate again. But then, what will happen to your bicarbonate? Suppose again, sabi ko sa inyo kanina, imagine that the stimulus in this occurrence is in, uh, I mean, acidosis. Imagine that the stimulus in this scenario is acidosis. There is a decrease in the pH. Okay, there is a decrease in the pH of the system. So please note that your bicarbonate here is a weak base. Your bicarbonate is a weak base. So again, your carbonic acid will dissociate, forming hydrogen ions and bicarbonate. Your bicarbonate will be absorbed. Okay, it will go to the interstitial fluid and then will be uh, absorbed into the peritubular capillaries, okay, into the circulation. Increased amounts of weak base in the circulation will somewhat correct the acidosis that is taking place. Okay, since it is a weak base, increase more weak base, then it will buffer the acidic blood, somewhat maintaining, or somewhat it will return the pH to close to normal levels at 7.35 to 7.45. Okay, what will happen to your hydrogen ions? Okay, your hydrogen ions, again, so will continue in the cycle. Okay, that is the secretion of hydrogen and the mechanism of hydrogen, that is the hydrogen ion secretion and the mechanism of filtered bicarbonate reabsorption. Anyway, let's take a look at this one also. This one also is a mechanism on how your body excretes hydrogen ions. Okay, so earlier we said that your salts, okay, your salts, they are responsible in trapping free hydrogen ions. So, same pa rin po. Okay, and so your hydrogen ions coming from the renal tubular cells, it will move out, your sodium will move in. Okay, your sodium will move in. So what happens here? So what happens? Okay, your hydrogen ions will combine with salts. It will combine with your salts, with your sulfate salts or your phosphate salts. It will combine with such, okay, allowing for the release of hydrogen ions. Allowing for the release of hydrogen ions. With that, okay, you excreted hydrogen ions. It combined with salts and it is excreted through the urine. Okay? And so, yes, please note an increase. Okay, and so let's take a look at this portion. An increase in carbon dioxide in the circulation, of course, it will cause uh, acidosis, of course. Okay, carbon dioxide reabsorbed, or yes, it is reabsorbed, or it goes to your renal tubular epithelial cells. Okay, and will combine with water, forming carbonic acid. And then after a very short span, this one, your carbonic acid will dissociate, forming hydrogen and bicarbonate. Bicarbonate again will move in, or it will move to the interstitium and be reabsorbed in the peritubular capillaries back to the circulation, thereby somewhat, okay, correcting the acidosis that is taking place. Okay? That is for your, what you call this, that is for the release of your hydrogen ions. And so I only presented two mechanisms on how your kidneys remove excess hydrogen ions. There is just one. Hanggang dyan lang po muna ang your urine pH is actually determined by the concentration of hydrogen ions, which are secreted by the kidneys in the form of ammonium ions, hydrogen phosphate, and weak organic acids. Yes, your ammonium ions here is a way, okay, and so, or yes, it is a mechanism by the kidneys to secrete the ammonium ions or to secrete hydrogen ions. So how is this done? Your ammonia, okay, NH3 po yun. Okay, ammonia coming from the diet or ammonia that is manufactured, yes, okay, your ammonia that is manufactured by your tubular cells will combine with hydrogen ions. Please note how that your tubular cells, they are capable of producing or secreting or synthesizing or producing ammonia. Again, your kidney tubules or your tubular cells, they are capable of secreting or synthesizing ammonia. Okay, so yes, what happens here? Your ammonia coming from the diet or the ammonia that is manufactured by your tubular cells will combine with hydrogen ions, forming ammonium ions or your NH4, which is readily excreted. Okay, which is readily excreted. Anyway, your salts naman, your salts, okay, I presented to you the concept of your salts, okay, how they trap your hydrogen ions for excretion. Anyway, let's take a look at this uh, normal value real quick. By the way, accordingly, the average adult on a normal diet excretes about 50 to 100 milliequivalent of hydrogen ions and 24 hours to produce a urine of about pH 6. Again, they normally, okay, someone with a normal diet will excrete 50 to 100 milliequivalent of hydrogen ions in 24 hours to produce a urine of about pH 6. Okay? So for your first morning urine, the pH ranges from 5 to 6.0. For your random urine, it ranges from pH 4.5 to 8.0. It ranges from pH 4.5 to 8.0. Please note that urine pH may vary from 4.6 to 8.0. It may vary from pH 6 to 8.0. And yes, please note on someone with a normal protein diet, okay, or someone with a normal protein diet, the pH range is from pH 4.5 to pH 6.5. Okay, pH 4.5 to pH 6.5, that is okay, seen in patients or in someone with normal protein. The clinical importance of determining your the clinical importance of determining your urine pH. Okay, so please note your urine pH is utilized to determine metabolic or respiratory acidosis that is taking place inside the body system, or ketosis that is taking place inside the body system. Aside from that, okay, it is also utilized in determining metabolic alkalosis, or respiratory acidosis or alkalosis, again, that is taking place inside a system. Because again, okay, and so your kidneys, okay, your kidneys, it has the ability, to, okay, to correct. Okay. By the way, in terms of compensation, kasi again, you have two. Okay, you have two organs that is responsible in that is mainly responsible in maintaining the acid base balance. You have the lungs and your kidneys. Okay. One of them will compensate. One of them will compensate, either retain or secrete more. Okay, and so in the kidneys, of course, it will retain or secrete uh, bicarbonate, or it will retain or it will secrete hydrogen ions as such. Okay. Anyway, your urine pH also utilized to determine defects in renal tubular secretion and reabsorption of acids and bases. Okay, it is also utilized to what you call this, predict renal calculi formation, because there are what do you call this? There are renal stones that form favorably in alkaline urine, and there are renal stones that form favorably in acidic urine. Okay, and yes, urine pH is utilized also for yes, okay, for the treatment of urinary tract infection. Okay, please note that in treating your urinary tract infection, accordingly, you need to maintain an acidic environment. In this case, you need to maintain an acidic environment. In this case, why? Because accordingly, at acidic environment, bacteria will not multiply readily. Bacteria will not multiply readily. Okay? And so going back to what I told you last time, that an alkaline pH will mean, okay, and so presence of bacteria. It may indicate a presence of bacteria, okay, or bacterial contamination. Anyway, okay, your urine pH is important for the identification of crystals, no? Because there are urinary sediment crystals that can, or that are precipitated, or that are present only in acidic urine, and there are urinary sediment crystals that are present only in alkaline urine, that are seen only in alkaline urine. Okay, your urine pH here is important in the identification of crystals. Okay, and yes, urine pH is utilized for the determination of your unsatisfactory specimen. Okay, and so please note that if a urine sample is not preserved, okay, and so after 2 hours, changes will occur. Okay, and so yes, okay, it is utilized to determine unsatisfactory samples. If the sample is not preserved, then you will have a pH of, you can reach a pH as high as pH 9. A sample that is not preserved, okay, and so a pH of 9.0 means an unpreserved urine sample. Because again, if you will not preserve your sample, okay, then it will cause the loss of carbon dioxide, Okay, thereby increasing the increasing the pH, as well as bacteria will multiply, also increasing the pH. Okay, those are clinical importance or clinical significance of determining your urine pH. Aside from that, of course, okay, and so yes, we'll take a look at urinal tubular acidosis. Urinal tubular acidosis, wherein there is a defect in urinal tubular secretion. Okay, and so in renal tubular acidosis, there is what we call as persistent alkaline urine. There is what you call as persistent alkaline urine. Anyway, let's take a look at your acidic urine. Okay, and so your acidic urine is seen in cases of metabolic and respiratory acidosis. Okay, in cases of metabolic and respiratory acidosis. So, of course, okay, and so there is a high pH, or sorry, in metabolic acidosis and respiratory acidosis, of course, there is an increased acidity, okay, or there is a decreased pH. Okay, please note ha, in metabolic and respiratory acidosis, there is a decreased pH. And yes, it is not good. So the body needs to correct that acidosis. So either your body will, what they call this, compensate, or your body will correct via release of carbon dioxide, or via release of hydrogen ions, or via retaining bicarbonate ions. Okay, and in the kidneys, the kidneys will either retain bicarbonate or remove more hydrogen ions. Okay, or remove more hydrogen ions. And yes, if there is more hydrogen ions in the urine, then it becomes acidic. Okay, the urine is acidic. Anyway, aside from that, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, okay, COPD, okay, COPD here, okay, it is somewhat related to your breathing. Okay, you are not excreting enough carbon dioxide. You are retaining more acids. You are retaining volatile acids. Okay, and what will your body do to compensate? The kidneys will release excess hydrogen ions. Ganun po siya. Okay, and so the kidneys will release excess hydrogen ions, thereby increasing the pH of the urine. What else? Pyrexia, fever, methanol poisoning, increased protein diet accordingly. Okay, diet high in meat protein, and okay, some fruits like cranberries will produce an acidic urine, or it will produce an acidic urine. Okay, increased protein in the diet and acid producing bacteria, of course. So, okay, UTI that has acid producing that is caused by acid producing bacteria. Okay, and so in hypokalemic alkalosis that is caused by prolonged vomiting, or in hypercortism. Okay, and so there is an acidic urine also. Again, hypokalemic alkalosis due to prolonged vomiting, or in hypercortism, there is also an acidic urine produced. What else? Okay. Uh, I said earlier that there are renal stones that are formed favorably, okay, or that are formed favorably in acidic or alkaline urine. Okay, so yes, uh, therapeutic acidification can be employed to prevent renal kidney stones, or renal stone formation. Therapeutic acidification can be employed to prevent kidney stone formation. Okay, so, in case of acidic urine, you have therapeutic acidification of the urine, okay, through the use of ammonium chloride, methionine and methenamine mandalate. Okay, this ammonium chloride, this methionine and methenamine mandalate, these are drugs that are used in the treatment of some calculi. They are used in the treatment of some calculi. Okay? So what are the type of calculi that are being treated by this? Ammonium chloride, methionine, and methenamine mandalate. Okay, and so these drugs will treat the phosphate stones or stones that are made of phosphate and stones that are made of calcium carbonate stones because these phosphate stones and calcium carbonate stones they tend to develop in alkaline urine. Okay, the alkaline environment will favor the formation of your phosphate and calcium carbonate stones. Again, your alkaline environment or alkaline urine will favor the development of phosphate and calcium carbonate kidney stones. That is why to combat such, you need to acidify the urine to prevent the formation of calcium carbonate stones or phosphate stones that are favorable or that develop favorably in alkaline urine. Okay? And by the way, please note that low urine pH, low urine pH is associated with metabolic syndrome. Please note you have your metabolic acidosis. Okay. And then it is also low urine pH is also associated with chronic kidney disease. And yes, okay, it is also associated with increased incidence of nephrolithiasis. There is an increased incidence also of nephrolithiasis or kidney stones in an acidic urine. Okay, and so because again, please note that there are kidney stones that form favorably. Okay, there are kidney stones that are formed favorably in acidic urine, and there are kidney stones that form favorably in alkaline urine. Okay, alkaline urine. Okay, so your alkaline urine it is seen in respiratory and metabolic alkalosis. Okay, it is seen in respiratory and metabolic alkalosis. Of course, in the urine there is a decrease of hydrogen ions, and there is an increase of the weak base, which is your bicarbonate. Okay, so what will your body do in case of this? Okay, and so in case that there is an increase in the pH sa system. Of course, your body will either increase the acid or will decrease the alkaline component. So in this case, you will secrete or you will remove hydrogen ions. Or sorry, in this case, you will remove bicarbonate ions from the system. You need to remove bicarbonate ions from the system and retain hydrogen ions accordingly or retain the acidic component to somewhat return it to the normal acid base or the normal pH. Okay, so alkaline urine is seen in respiratory and metabolic alkalosis. Okay, in uh, okay, renal tubular acidosis. Okay, as what I've said earlier, alkaline urine, or there is a persistence of alkaline urine in cases of renal tubular acidosis. Your urease producing bacteria will produce, okay, urease producing bacteria, of course, will produce an alkaline urine. Okay, and so vegetable and fruit diet. Okay, please note, vegetable and fruit diet will produce an alkaline urine. Okay, it will produce an alkaline urine. Hyperventilation, vomiting as such. Okay, and yes, you have alkaline tide. What happens in your alkaline tide here is that what happens in your alkaline tide? Usually it is seen after meals, diba? Alkaline tide is usually seen after meals. Why? Okay, please note that in your stomach, okay, in your stomach, you need hydrochloric acid. In your stomach, you need hydrochloric acid to digest, okay, the food you have taken in. So what happens here? Let's take a look at the source of hydrochloric acid in the stomach. The source of your hydrochloric acid will come from, the source of your hydrochloric acid, okay, and so the hydrogen will come from, okay, the hydrogen here will come from the breakdown. Actually, it will come from the breakdown of carbonic acid. It will come from the breakdown of carbonic acid from inside your parietal cell. Okay, inside your parietal cell, carbonic acid will be broken down into bicarbonate and hydrogen, and your hydrogen will move out. It will go to the stomach lumen to combine with chloride forming HCl. Okay, ganun po siya. The source naman of your chloride is from the circulation still, from the circulation. Again, hydrogen ions will move out to the stomach lumen, okay, and will combine with the chloride forming hydrochloric acid. Okay, what will happen? As what I've said earlier, hydrogen and bicarbonate are the products of dissociation of carbonic acid. Okay, what will happen to your what will happen to your bicarbonate? Okay, from the parietal cell, again from the parietal cell of your stomach, from the parietal cell of your stomach, hydrogen ions will move out going to the stomach lumen, and then bicarbonate, what will happen? It will move out also. It will move out from the parietal cell going to the interstitium and going to the circulation. It will move out going to the interstitium, going to the circulation, thereby increasing the alkaline content of the circulation, alkaline content of the blood. Please note again that bicarbonate is a weak base. Okay, bicarbonate is a weak base. Again, in alkaline tide, in case that you need, pagkatapos mong kumain, your stomach needs to digest the food that you have taken in. So what will happen? Okay, will your parietal cells, okay, inside your parietal cells, you have carbonic anhydrase, which will dissociate your carbonic acid. It will dissociate carbonic acid into hydrogen and bicarbonate. Hydrogen will move outside of the parietal cell, going to the stomach lumen, and will combine with the chloride. It will combine with chloride, forming hydrochloric acid. And of course, it will do its digestive function inside the stomach. What will happen to your bicarbonate? Your bicarbonate will move outside of the parietal cell, going to the interstitium, and then going to your circulation. Going to the circulation, going to your portal veins, going to your veins. And yes, increasing the alkaline content or the alkaline component of the blood. Okay? Producing an alkaline, producing this alkaline tide accordingly. Okay, what will your body do in this case if there is an in increase in the pH sa system? Okay, it needs to correct it. That is why it will release bicarbonate ions. Okay, and yes, okay, you have your old specimens. Okay, all specimens accordingly are all specimens, they have an alkaline pH, or all specimens that are not preserved, they have an alkaline pH. Okay, so yes, please note that in renal tubular acidosis, there is an inability to produce an acidic urine due to the inability of the tubules to secrete ammonia. And please go back to how your ammonia helps in releasing hydrogen ions. Nabanggit po yan. Nabanggit po natin yan earlier. Okay? Aside from that, okay, There are medications also. Okay, there are medications that are utilized to induce an alkaline urine to treat the calculi. To treat calculi that are composed of uric acid, cysteine, or calcium oxalate, which tend to develop in alkaline environment. Okay, again, please note that uh, there are drugs or there are medications that are utilized to treat some calculi, particularly those composed of uric acid, cysteine, or calcium oxalate. So these medications or these drugs that are introduced to treat these calculi, you have your sodium bicarb, potassium citrate, and acetazolamide. Okay, your sodium bicarb, potassium carbonate, potassium citrate, and acetazolamide. These are drugs that are introduced into the body to treat calculi made of uric acid, cysteine, or calcium oxalate. Okay. Okay, accordingly, you have drugs or antibiotics also. Okay, there are antibiotics also that are more active in alkaline environment. You have neomycin, kanamycin, and streptomycin. Okay, you have neomycin, kanamycin, and streptomycin. They are accordingly more active in alkaline urine. Of course, these drugs are utilized to treat some UTI. Okay, and so your neomycin, kanamycin, and streptomycin, these are drugs used to treat UTI, and these are more active in alkaline urine. Aside from those, sulfonamide therapy will produce an alkaline urine as well as uh, yeah, okay, and so sulfonamide therapy as well as of course your old samples, old specimens. Okay, and so unpreserved old samples will produce alkaline urine. Renal tubular acidosis or renal tubular acidosis again. Okay, and so please note that this one is caused by impaired tubular function. Impaired tubular function. Okay, and so there is an abnormality. Okay, or yes, there is an abnormality in the production of ammonia. Okay, so yes, please note that in renal tubular acidosis, there is a normal glomerular filtration. There is normal glomerular filtration. But then the problem is the renal tubules. Okay, again, please note that your renal tubules, they have the ability or they produce reasonable amounts of ammonia. They produce reasonable amounts of ammonia. Okay, so what happens here? Okay, in your distal convoluted tubule, its function is impaired. In your DCT, the function of your DCT is impaired. It cannot form ammonia and cannot exchange hydrogen and sodium. Okay, it cannot form ammonia and cannot change hydrogen and it cannot exchange hydrogen and sodium. Kasi 'di ba what happens is sodium will move into the renal tubular epithelial cells so that hydrogen can move out. But then in case of RTA, the density function is impaired. Okay? It cannot exchange hydrogen and sodium. Okay? And yes, it cannot also form ammonia. It cannot also form ammonia. So what happens? If the DCT cannot form ammonia, okay, if it cannot form ammonia, then hydrogen cannot bind hydrogen cannot combine with ammonia to form ammonium for excretion. Ganun po. Okay? And so if the DCT cannot form ammonia, then hydrogen is not excreted. Hydrogen is not excreted. It will remain in the circulation. Okay, and yes, DCT cannot exchange hydrogen and sodium. Hydrogen remains inside the RTE. It remains inside the RTE. Okay, and so yes, if you cannot excrete the hydrogen ions, then of course, please note that it will cause to systemic acidosis. It will cause a systemic acidosis. Okay, because you cannot excrete hydrogen. Hydrogen, okay, an increase in hydrogen content of a system, it makes it acidic. Okay, it makes it acidic. Okay, and so please note that if the urine cannot excrete hydrogen ions, then there is no, yes, if the urine cannot excrete hydrogen ions, then there is no, uh, there is no substance that will make the urine acidic, thereby producing a urine that is alkaline, thereby producing a urine that is alkaline. That is for your renal tubular acidosis of your distal convoluted tubule or DCT-RTA. Okay, and in this case, please note that the pH cannot be lowered below 6 to 6.5, even if you administer an acid loading substance. Again, even if you will administer an acid loading substance in case of RTA or DCT RTA, you will not the pH cannot be lowered below 6 to 6.5, even with the administration of an acid loading substance. Okay, aside from such findings, titrable acidity in the concentrations of ammonium in the urine are decreased. Titrable acidity and the concentrations of ammonium in the urine are decreased. Also, of course, there is a decreased ammonium. Why? Because, because there is no ammonia that is produced. Okay, ammonia should combine with hydrogen to form ammonium, but then there is no ammonia produced. That is why there is no ammonium. There is a decreased ammonium in the urine. There is a decreased ammonium that is excreted. In case of PCT-RTA, proximal convoluted tubule RTA naman, there is a bicarbonate wasting. Bicarbonate wasting. Okay, bicarbonate again is a weak base. Increased bicarbonate in the urine will produce an alkaline urine. Okay, it will produce an alkaline urine. If there is a decrease alkaline substance in the circulation, of course, then it will cause an acidosis also. It will cause an acidosis. Kaya po, tinawag na renal tubular acidosis. Okay? And so what happens in the system, you have an acidosis. Okay? You have an increased pH because your acid substances are being retained, or your basic substance or your alkaline substance is being excreted. Ganun po siya. Okay, and so yes, in RTA, there is a persistence of an alkaline. Here, your methods of determining the pH, the urine pH, you have your litmus paper through the use of litmus paper, use of nitrazine, liquid indicators such as methyl red. Okay, of course, all of this, okay, your agent strip also, okay, and so color changes. All of this one, okay, is based on the change in color. Okay, based on the change in color. And then you have your pH and your pH electrode or your pH meter. The pH electrode also is a method of determining your urine pH. But then the most commonly employed in the clinical laboratory is the use of your reagent strip. The use of your reagent strip. Okay, first, let's take a look at your reagent strip here. Your pH meter. Your pH meter, you need accordingly to standardize this pH meter with 3 buffers of known pH because the electrode, or yes, this one, the pH meter, tend to drift accordingly. That is why you need to standardize it with three buffers of known pH. After standardization, you spray the electrodes with distilled water to clean it, okay, and dry it. And after that, oh, yes, you dry it with a tissue, and after that, you dry the electrode with a tissue. Then after that, you immerse the electrode in the urine sample and report the pH of the urine at the temperature of measurement. In pH meters or in pH meter, if your reading is 6.5, then you report it as 6.5. If your reading is 6.3, then you report it as 6.3. You report the value. Okay? Yes, I know you tried using pH meter in the biochemistry lab. Okay, anyway, please note that your pH meter is utilized in more accurate measurements. Okay, in more accurate measurements of pH. Okay, and so, okay, use in more accurate measurements of pH. Okay, because there are conditions or circumstances wherein you need a more accurate measurement of pH. Example, in pH determination of patients with acid-base imbalances. Please note that in this case, in individuals with acid-base imbalances, okay, pH is very important. Okay, and so pH is very important in determination of, in individuals with acid-base imbalances. Just a plus 2, plus 0.2, or plus zero point 0.1, okay, and so means a lot in case of acid-base imbalances. No? Okay. What else? Monitoring of urine alkalinization in patients receiving high-dose methotrexate therapy. Okay, monitoring of urine alkalinization in patients receiving high-dose methotrexate therapy. Please note kasi that your methotrexate therapy is very soluble. It is very soluble in alkaline environment. And please note that below the pH of 7, your methotrexate, the drug methotrexate, becomes less soluble, and it will tend to crystallize. Okay, your methotrexate at a pH of below 7, it will tend to crystallize. And yes, that is actually a threat. Okay, sabi niya kasi dito high dose methotrexate. What if the pH, what if the pH of your ultrafiltrate goes below 7.0? Crystallization will take place. And if it crystallizes in your renal tubules, then it is not good. Okay, if it crystallizes in the renal tubules, then it is not good, of course. It will cause probably obstruction. It will cause obstruction. Okay? And yes, it is also utilized in patients undergoing treatment for nephrolithiasis. Okay, also utilized in patients undergoing treatment for nephrolithiasis. Okay, that is for the use of your pH meter. Okay, that is for the use of your pH meter. Okay. Anyway, let's take a look at your urine reagent strip method. Your reagent strip method for urine pH. Okay. The principle employed is double indicator system. The principle employed is double indicator system, meaning you have two indicators embedded in the pad. Okay. Again, balikan po natin. Okay, in your pH, in your reagent strip, you have different pads po doon. Maraming pads po yon. There is a pad for protein, there is a pad for specific gravity, there is a pad for pH. And in the pH pad, it has an embedded indicators. It has two indicators embedded. The, the pH pad has two indicators present. So what are those? So you have your methyl red and bromthymol blue. The methyl red, okay, is an acid indicator, and the bromthymol blue is a basic or alkaline indicator. Okay, so your methyl red, okay, changes in color from yellow, sorry, from red. Methyl red changes in color from red to yellow at a pH of 4 to 6. Okay, if the pH of the urine is 4, then the reading, I mean the color is red. If the pH is 6, then the color is yellow. For bromthymol blue, it changes in color from yellow to blue at pH 6 to 9. So the changes are red, yellow, then blue. Okay, red, yellow, then blue accordingly. Okay, that is for your reagent strip method. Okay, please note how there it has double, it has two indicators because there is no such thing as single indicator for pH, for a basic and alkaline for an acidic and alkaline pH. Wala po. There is no indicator for both an alkaline and an acidic pH. Okay? So that is why you need two indicators. Okay, you need two indicators accordingly. Okay, for the reading time of this one, 60 seconds. You read after 60 seconds. Okay, but then please note accordingly that time is not critical in this one, in urine pH. Okay, interferences. Please note. Okay, and so care should be taken not to have excessively wet strips where acid buffer from the protein pad runs into the pH pad. Or yes, run over from adjacent. It's run over from adjacent. Okay, causing of course a change in the color of the pH pad. Old samples. Okay, old samples accordingly, of course. Okay, and so unpreserved urine samples will produce an erroneous result. Okay, that is why the required sample here, fresh urine sample. Fresh, freshly collected urine sample. Okay, freshly collected urine sample. And yes, okay, and so your urine pH is correlated with nitrite, leukocytes, and microscopic examination. Okay, and so please note, okay, and so presence of nitrite may indicate bacterial infection. Presence of leukocyte may indicate bacterial infection. Because normally there is wala po dapat. There should be no leukocytes seen or WBC seen in the urine. Or there is just 0 to something. There is just this 0 to something range. Okay? And yes, it should be correlated with nitrite and leukocytes because again, if the pH is alkaline, then there is a high chance that there is bacteria present. Okay? That is for your reagent strip method. Please note, madali lang po itong gawin. Okay? Dip mo lang po siya and then you're good to go. Okay? You dip mo, blot. Okay? And then wait. After that, you compare. Okay, and so again, you have here for your methyl red and bromthymol blue, these are the color indicators embedded in the pH pad. Okay, your methyl red, this is for what we call this. Okay, and so your methyl red will change its structure based on the hydrogen content. Okay, and so if there is a greater than, I mean, if the pH is 5 or 4, then it will give you a red color. Okay, if the pH is 6, then it will give you a yellow color. Okay, for your bromthymol blue, this is your alkaline indicator. If the pH is 9, then it will give you a blue color. It doesn't look like blue, it looks like violet. Okay, and so for your bromthymol blue, it will change from yellow to blue. Yellow if the pH is 6, and blue if the pH is 9. Okay? And so you have here your reagent strip. Okay, okay, and so for your pH, okay, your pH here, 60 seconds reaction time. You read after 60 seconds, but then again, time is not critical. Okay, if the pH is 4 or 5 or whatsoever, if the pH is 4, you will have such color. Okay, and so yes, you have two indicators, methyl red and bromthymol blue. If it is the pH is 4 or 5, then it will give you a red color. If the pH is 6, then will give you a yellow color. And if the pH is 9, 8 will give you a blue color. Okay, again, please note for your pH, the pH pad, it has an indicator. It utilizes your double indicator system. So what are the indicators embedded in the pH pad? Okay, you have methyl red and bromthymol blue. By the way, okay, and so you have your pH pad. Ito mo mga ito, these are your pH pads. These are your pH pads. Okay, so I guess let's end here. Thank you for reaching this far. Thank you so much. And this has been Gael, reminding you to live fully, love deeply, laugh often, keep learning, and never forget to enjoy the ride. Thank you so much. Thank you, and see you around.